Ukraine decries Russian ceasefire as a farce amid ongoing attacks and hundreds of reported violations as Russia marked its traditional Victory Day celebrations. Ukraine has sharply criticized Moscow's unilateral ceasefire, labeling it a farce amid reports of widespread violations along the front line. Ukrainian officials claim the so-called truce has been repeatedly ignored, with attacks continuing unabated across multiple regions of the war-torn country. A ceasefire in name only, Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha accused Russian forces of committing at least 734 ceasefire violations since the start of the supposed three-day pause in hostilities, which began at midnight Moscow time, 21:00 GMT on Wednesday. The ceasefire was declared by Russian President Vladimir Putin to coincide with Victory Day, a key event in Russia commemorating the Soviet defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. Despite the Kremlin's insistence that all Russian units were observing a full halt in combat operations, Ukraine has reported continued assaults, particularly in the northeastern Sumy region, as well as military offensives in eastern Ukraine, continued bombardment and civilian casualties. Ukrainian emergency services reported that one civilian died following an early morning Russian airstrike in Bilopilia, a border town in the Sumy region. The area has come under intensified attacks using air-launched glide bombs, a newer tactic that allows Russian forces to hit targets from a distance, bypassing some air defenses. Photos released by Ukraine's State Emergency Service showed extensive damage to residential buildings and the dramatic rescue of a woman who had been trapped under rubble. The Ukrainian Air Force confirmed that no drones or missiles entered its airspace overnight as of 08 Azad local time, 05 Azad GMT, but emphasized that aerial attacks had continued through other means. A truce for the parade, not for peace. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky dismissed the Russian ceasefire as a theatrical show designed to ensure the safety and optics of Moscow's Victory Day parade rather than as a genuine humanitarian gesture. He reiterated his government's demand for a minimum 30-day truce, accusing Russia of weaponizing peace proposals to gain tactical or propaganda advantages. "We don't want a peace that falls apart the next day," said Ukrainian MP and military serviceman Sviatoslav Yurash in an interview with the BBC. "Russia lies. They say ceasefire, and then they bomb us." Past experiences support Ukraine's skepticism. During a 30-hour Easter truce earlier this year, both sides traded accusations of hundreds of ceasefire violations, even as violence briefly dipped. Russia blames Ukraine, calls truce a test. In response, the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed Ukrainian forces had breached the ceasefire 488 times, maintaining that Russian troops were only retaliating in a mirror-like manner. The Kremlin characterized the truce as a test of Ukraine's readiness for peace, even as it rejected a joint U.S.-Ukrainian proposal for an unconditional ceasefire. Analysts say the real purpose of the truce may lie elsewhere. According to Sergei Sanovich of Stanford University, the ceasefire appears aimed at impressing international observers, especially the United States, rather than offering meaningful de-escalation on the ground. "This is not a peace gesture toward Ukraine," Sanovich told the BBC. "It's a strategic pause to manage international perception and maintain momentum in back-channel diplomacy, especially with the U.S." The role of Donald Trump and global diplomacy in Washington. President Donald Trump, since his re-inauguration in January, has expressed strong interest in ending the war through mediation. However, he has faced criticism for allegedly pressuring Kyiv to accept painful concessions, possibly including territorial compromise. So far, Ukraine has remained adamant. Any negotiated peace must not reward aggression or surrender Ukrainian land, including Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014, and other occupied regions that now account for roughly 20% of Ukraine's territory. Drone warfare and warnings of escalation drone warfare has intensified on both sides. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that 524 Ukrainian drones were downed in a 24-hour period, the highest number claimed since the war began. While the figure remains unverified, it highlights the scale of modern drone combat. The barrage disrupted flights at Russian airports, affecting around 60,000 passengers. Ukraine sees this as a clear sign that it is not seeking a desperate peace. "We are not interested in surrender masked as peace," said Sanovich, China's presence and the Moscow parade on. The eve of Victory Day, Chinese President Xi Jinping visited Moscow to meet with Vladimir Putin. The two leaders signed an updated investment agreement and reaffirmed their alliance, declaring that their cooperation was injecting positive energy into a world in turmoil. Xi is one of 27 international leaders reportedly attending the Red Square parade, despite Ukraine's warnings that it could not guarantee the safety of foreign dignitaries due to the high risk of drone attacks. Security measures in Moscow have been ramped up significantly, with mobile internet reportedly jammed and counter-drone operations in full effect. Andrei Fedorov, a former Russian deputy foreign minister, admitted Russia is seriously concerned about the possibility of attack by Ukrainian drones. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that all necessary measures were being taken to ensure the parade occurs in a calm, stable, and peaceful atmosphere. 2 victory days, 2 narratives. While Russia marks Victory Day on May 9th, the rest of Europe commemorates Victory in Europe, VE, Day on May 8th. This year's observance marks the 80th anniversary of the defeat of Nazi Germany, an occasion marred by deep geopolitical divisions and echoes of past conflicts. In a video message from central Kiev, President Zelensky paid tribute to Ukrainian soldiers walking solemnly among a field of flags representing fallen troops. Unfortunately, 3 years ago, it happened again, and just like before, the air raid siren roared over Kyiv, Zelensky said, referring to the start of Russia's full-scale invasion on 24 February 2022. He described Russia's parade as a display of cynicism, warning that evil must be opposed resolutely with force, and declaring that Ukraine's struggle is part of the same legacy of resistance that defeated fascism 8 decades ago. Despite diplomatic gestures, temporary ceasefires, and global calls for peace, the war in Ukraine continues unabated. As the world watches smoke rise from Red Square and missiles fall on Ukrainian towns, the rift between symbolic diplomacy and battlefield reality has never been more stark. What kind of peace is possible, and at what cost, remains the defining question of Europe's most devastating war in generations. Thank you for watching Yellow Pepper TV, your source for trusted news and insights. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay informed.